You're watching the award-winning GHS-TV, a nationally recognized student television station.
Welcome to Let's Talk Business. My name is Kelly Bolton, and thank you for tuning in as we have the distinct pleasure of hosting our community's foremost leaders and entrepreneurs. As advisors, we work closely with individuals to help them better understand their employer benefits, retirement programs, and navigate employment challenges. To explore these and other human resource-related matters, we're honored to have with us Ms. Verlinda Henning, President of Memphis Chapter of the Society for Human Resource Management. Thank you so much for joining us today. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, Kelly. It's a real privilege to be here.
Well, good. Well, tell me, when did you first start in human resources?
My career in human resources began at Memphis Light, Gas, and Water Division. I completed my education at then Memphis State University, and had been a graduate student, and when I was finished with my graduate degree, I was looking for a position. And at the time, MLGW had an opening, and actually I got there through Manpower, a temporary service.
Really?
Because
yes.
At the time, they didn't have anything, but I said, I need to work. My husband was still in school. My assistantship was over because I graduated. And I said, I need a job. They sent me to MLGW. There was a temporary slot in payroll. I started there. They hired me permanently, and a position came open in my area of choice, which was human resources. And so I was promoted into that position, and I built my human resources career there.
Well, that's wonderful. You know, I guess it kind of is a lesson for all the young people and anybody really watching the show, is that, you know, you never know what doors are going to be open. And if you had not taken that career path all those years ago and made that choice to work with Manpower and take this job in payroll, you wouldn't be where you are today.
It's about getting a foot in the door, getting started, building a good reputation, and going from there.
Well, that's wonderful. So I bet human resources has changed a bunch since you've gotten in it.
Oh, absolutely. When I began my career, human resources was very much viewed as administrative, paper pushing, bureaucracy, rules. Don't do this, do that, sign here, fill this form out, bring this form in. And that was what we did. There was very little strategic about human resources. It was more of management will tell you what to do, you will do it. Independent thought from HR professionals wasn't especially valued at the time, and we were basically in a little box that said, you do what management tells you to do, you're not creative, you're not innovative. We barely had a seat at the table in terms of corporate strategic decisions, so that very much was the HR world back in 1988 when I began my career in HR.
It has changed, and tell me a little bit about the role of an HR person today.
An HR person now really is a strategic leader. They are looked upon as someone that has to be innovative. You have to be able to change as technology changes, as the workforce changes, as culture and the view of culture from external sources, as we've seen with the Me Too movement and how that affected corporate culture. HR professionals have to be innovative, they have to be fluid and able to turn on a dime, and they have to be always looking ahead, looking around, looking ahead, anticipating what will be coming, and helping the company develop a strategy to retain talent, attract new talent, and to be a talent magnet and develop people.
Well, I noticed in the first question about what was human resources, we talked about paper and administrative work, and you didn't mention paper in the other.
No.
You mentioned technology, which has taken the place. What would you say, you mentioned the Me Too movement, which I know has been a challenge for all corporate structure and all over the world, really. What would you say is the biggest challenge in HR today?
I think there are a couple that really rise to the top. One is just the multi-generational workforce. We have 5 generations in the workforce now, and boomers like me are aging out, but also many of us are opting to stay longer. And then we have Gen X, Gen Y, millennials, all the other alphabet soup.
Right.
And
I'm losing track of them.
That mix of talent means that people approach jobs very differently. They approach an employer very differently based on the generation they come out of. People, for instance, when I hired in, I looked to build my career and stay till I retired. That is not the case anymore. I'm not saying that's good or bad, but that's a reality. People now are much more fluid. Well, I'll start here, but I'm open to change within a year or 6 months if something came up. So that is a huge challenge for HR. Also, the fact that technology and its impact on the workforce has definitely impacted how we handle people, how we handle situations, how we look and say, where might this position be? Might it be replaced by AI or some type of technology? And then what do we do with this person who is an asset? How do we reskill them, upskill them, retain them? So those are some of the major challenges.
Well, it sounds to me it's a mix of a lot of things. It's got some administrative component, but it's got some psychological component too, just in dealing with what's motivating these different generations. And in my very limited experience in reviewing and assessing resumes and interviewing, there is a big difference. I mean, I've seen much more resumes recently where 6 months here, 6 months there, 9 months here, 2 years here, where I've been at my firm for 32 years. I mean, I joined it, I stayed, this is what I wanted to do, and I'm not seeing that. And you hear from this younger generation too. I'd like to say I'm still in the younger generation, but I guess I'm aging up. but you hear from the younger generation, they're looking for different things. So I can only imagine the metamorphosis really of the role. So if you were projecting, say, 10 years down the road, what do you think it's going to look like then? If you had that crystal ball.
Yeah, well, let me polish it up.
Yeah.
I think we will see more and more innovative positioning. We'll see more job sharing. We'll see more flexibility. I mean, telecommuting has been a reality. We'll see more of that. The gig economy is going to grow because younger talent wants to work how they want to work. They want to drive the way the workforce is set up. And in my generation, in generation of older talent, we said this, we got handed the package of this is it, 9 to 5 or 8 to 4 or whatever it is. We took that. So that's going to be a real sea change, and we're going to see that. That's going to grow. We're going to look at benefits that are going to have to be much more flexible and innovative. Benefits are transcending health, life, disability. Now you're looking at parenting. You're looking at elder care. You're looking at fertility issues. You're looking at all kinds of gender issues that could play into benefits, and those were things that were not on the radar when we began our careers.
You're exactly right. That's quite a future that we've got ahead of us. We're going to pause for a short commercial break. Please don't go away.
We see the potential in every single student.
That sounds like a confession to me.
I love watching these kids as they start as freshmen in high school and watching them mature and grow.
At last, my right arm is complete again!
The theater program at GHS, it's something special.
Is very intensive, it's very interactive.
When a student starts here their freshman year, they start with Introduction to Theater. And after that year, they have a choice to either go into acting or technical theater. And then after that, they join our production workshop class. It's the class that is completely run by students.
The students do mostly everything. We build the sets, we do lighting, we make the costumes, we do the shows.
It's very fun. I mean, everybody's very supportive of each other.
Now we're all in this together.
It's taught me so much about how to act and how to have a stage presence.
Not only are we teaching the students the skills that they need to be a great performer or a great stage manager or a wonderful lighting designer, we're teaching them skills that they're going to be able to apply to whatever they do in their life.
You guys are fabulous!
This department not only makes wonderful theater, but more importantly, this department makes wonderful people.
For more information about the Kappa program, visit ghskappa.com or call 755-7775. You're watching the award-winning GHS-TV, a nationally recognized student television station.
Welcome back to Let's Talk Business. If you're just tuning in, I'm Kelly Bolton, and today we've been discussing how companies structure employee benefit programs and how employees can best utilize these resources. With us again to explore this important subject is Ms. Verlinda Henning, the president of the Memphis Society for Human Resource Management. Quite a mouthful. Had to say that part. Did I get that out right?
You got it very good.
Very good.
It is a mouthful.
Well, I know before we took a break, we were talking about this evolving face of HR, and as we took a commercial break, my mind was just wandering on, you know, with this turnover that we're seeing and these new generations looking for different things, how in the world can companies attract and retain the talent, because there's got to be so much expense that a company undergoes to get someone up and running for them to turn around and leave. So I would assume that that's a big challenge, and I hear a lot about challenges in Memphis. I hear challenges in Memphis of finding the talent, and I was hoping maybe you could comment on that.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, to your first point, Kelly, attracting the talent and getting it up to speed is a huge expense for any organization. So when you have talent, you want to retain it. And one of the challenges for Memphis has been, first of all, there are several. There's our poverty issue, which is impacted by and impacts education. When an organization is looking for a highly skilled workforce, then that can be a challenge here. And not to say we don't have some of that talent, but we may not have a broad enough talent base. So there are organizations such as the American Job Center, which is under the auspices of the city now, but they work to help people develop talent. That is one way. You're seeing more and more small to mid-sized organizations help people that may come on board in one capacity develop their talent. We're seeing schools of all types work for developing talent with their students, and it's not just necessarily a college degree either. That, in my personal opinion, is one thing that's been a fallacy, that every young person has to get a college degree. Now, if you want to be a human resources executive, if you want to be an attorney, a physician, yes. But there are skilled workforce needs that don't require that. Perhaps they require a technical skill. That's important too, and that's another piece of the employment puzzle for Memphis, is having skill.
Well, and I hear a lot, I've had the pleasure of interviewing community colleges on the show that are involved with the training of these technical skills. And I think it's amazing the kind of jobs that they're getting because they're being trained for a specific skill where there is a need. So how nice to be able to be trained, go to school, learn a skill, get out, have a job, and have a very nice paycheck. But you know what worries me is if we do have a little bit of maybe a tight labor force, we're not being able to find what we need, and we've got schools going in and training and educating, and then a company brings them on, what are we doing to keep the talent? And because by the time they've trained them, are they training them for somebody else to take them from them?
Hopefully not. And when you have your talent, that's where the culture piece comes in, and creating a culture that says to a younger employee, you have talent, we've hired you for this, we want to offer you these other ways to grow your talent, to grow your abilities. Here are some things you can do that are creative. It's thinking outside of the box, and I know that sounds like a cliche, but for younger talent, innovation and new challenges are important, and having a chance to spread their wings, to grow, to learn something new keeps them engaged, keeps them connected with the organization. And if you don't do that, if you let them sit and just do their work, at some point they're going to say, no, I'm not learning anything new, my skill sets aren't being enhanced, I'm not being challenged.
I'm bored.
Yeah, basically.
And
because the
on.
attention span, I mean, this is short attention span generation.
Right. And do you find that a lot of that is coming from boredom and then maybe a portion of it coming from income? Are they being able to find, by leaving a job demanding a higher salary someplace else than what the current job is willing to pay them for doing the same thing?
I find that it's not always the higher salary that drives them. I mean, intuitively you'd say, yes, more money, here,
right.
Where do I sign?
Exactly.
But it's not just that, and I think that's one of the fallacies, that I can offer you more money.
Right.
I could offer you more money. That may not be what motivates you. And that's where you have to play into emotional intelligence to actually know the people that you're working with, if you're recruiting. What motivates this person? Is it money? It might be. But is it the chance to grow, to learn new skills, to be mentored by someone that's a terrific example of knowledge and experience in their chosen area?
Yeah, and it seems to me also to be part of something, not to just be the person sitting at that desk behind that computer that does this job. When they can see that they're part of a bigger organization, a bigger corporate culture, as you were talking about, which seems to be something that in my mind, and I'm not an HR professional, but I was thinking that that would be something you would mention, because it seems to me that if you let them feel a part of something bigger, then that's good. So, you know, and we're filming the show at Germantown High School. So some of these kids will go on to college, some of them will go on to technical school. If you were giving either the kids that are doing the filming of the show or our audience that's out there listening that might be adults, that not that these are not adults, but young adults, more senior adults that are looking for jobs, what advice would you give them, you know, when they're beginning a job search?
I would say be open. I would say be flexible. Don't sell yourself short on what you've heard about an employer. Make your own mind up. I would tell people when they came to MLGW to apply, well, I've heard this, I've heard that. It might be an internal person that was getting promoted. Well, I heard this about this supervisor. I said, don't let somebody else make your mind up for you. Keep an open mind. Don't sell yourself short. Don't sell an organization short. Do your homework. Find out about the organization. Find out what they do. See what their values are. Find out what their culture is. Does it align with what interests you, with what speaks to you, with what inspires you?
Well, that makes sense. That's good. Thank you for that. When we return, we will review what we've discussed today and share some final tips on maximizing your career and your benefits.
We have 4 major vocal ensembles at Germantown High School. There's a large chorale with about 50 to 60 students, a women's chorus, our chamber choir, which is an elite ensemble of 18 singers, and a contemporary a cappella group, which is about 16 singers.
It's really nice to be in a room full of people who share your passion and who want to learn and make every song as beautiful as it possibly can be.
I really try to instill in my students the importance of connecting with the literature, that they have to go outside of the box and actually understand what they're singing about.
Thank you.
This program has really pushed me. It's shown me a lot of my insecurities and how to grow past those.
Many times we'll gather around the piano to build that sense of camaraderie, to be able to hear each other better, to interact with each other and make music together.
Work together, hold that solid. Go.
Then we genuinely love music. We sing because we want to and not because our Mr. Hayner is telling us.
Do 2 beats, you come in. 1 and 2.
Music empowers us to come together as a group. I feel like this generation has become so focused on me, 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 me. And music is us, 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 us.
For more information about the Kappa program, visit GHS-Kappa.com or call 755-7775. You're watching the award-winning GHS-TV, a nationally recognized student television station.
Thank you for joining us on Let's Talk Business. I'm Kelly Bolton, and today we've been addressing how employees can work with their employers to achieve their professional and retirement goals. Leading us in this conversation, we're thrilled to have with us Ms. Verlinda Henning, a longtime executive and current president of the Society of Human Resource Management. Before we took a break, we were kind of on a roll talking about benefits and the changes that we're seeing and HR and that sort of thing, and we kind of barely mentioned the word benefits. I wanted to talk a little bit about benefits as part of the compensation package. How someone can view their offer of $20 an hour at this firm or this company versus $20 an hour at this company, considering the benefits package.
I think you have to, a candidate would have to look at what the benefits packages are that each organization's offering, and based on where they are at their particular point in life, what benefits they see that they're going to need. You know, and it may be that something's, if you're a mid-career professional, it may seem that, well, if there's an elder care benefit, if I may be in that sandwich generation that's going to have an older parent to take care of, what might that look like? What might that offer for me? The flexibility of a schedule that, and that's a benefit. It may not necessarily be a cost benefit that you can cost out like an insurance or a retirement or what have you, but it's a benefit based on what your other commitments might be, what your family life is like. So flexibility of schedule. You know, you have to look at where you are at the present time, and you can do a crystal ball, but really you need to look at what speaks to you now. And I would encourage people as a candidate, talk with your recruiter, talk about the benefits and help you understand how their package is set up, what it might look like for someone like you. Do they anticipate changes going forward? And you know, everything's fluid. I mean, nothing is fixed, but to have that conversation and to be sure that you understand as a candidate what they're offering to you and what flexibility they might have.
Very good. And then what about corporate culture? I mean, if you're looking for a job, what's the best way to really get a flavor for the corporate culture? Because everybody knows the website's their best foot forward. All the employees are smiley and happy. When you interview, no one's going to tell you the bad stuff. If you go on the internet, all you're going to see is the bad stuff because people don't take time to post the good stuff. So how do you really get a flavor for what you're entering?
I think when you go, assuming you have an in-person interview, when you go, look around. You know, when you walk into a place, you get a feel for what the atmosphere is like. Does it seem sterile? Does someone greet you? Do they seem glad to see you? Is it innovative looking? Is it traditional? You know, look at how people are dressed that you encounter. If they don't know who you are and you haven't introduced yourself, you know, you can stand and listen. There's nothing wrong with that. Listen to what people say. Listen to how they interact with each other. All those are markers of how a culture is set up, and you can see people work together, have a conversation, feel like, oh, they like each other. They have the flexibility to have this conversation. Yes, they're at work, and it's not an inappropriate conversation, but they have the flexibility to do that. And you can tell if a culture is fear-driven. For example, if you're looking over your shoulder for somebody to come and pounce. You know, you get a sense of that from watching people, watching how people interact with you, with others, just the feel of the place. And it is something, it's internal. You have to sense it, I think. Those are things to look for. I always ask, when I have interviewed, I've always asked, the person, to tell me, what was their biggest challenge in adapting to the culture, because that's typically not a question they would expect. And this is putting my HR hat on, but saying, what was your challenge? And see what they say.
Well, and let me ask you this. So this gives the person doing the interview a little kind of edge onto, or a little insight into what's in your mind if you're doing the interview. You've got your typical canned interview questions. But what is someone conducting an interview looking for in their candidate besides the skill to do the job?
When I interview someone, I'm looking for the connection they make. I'm looking for how they communicate. And I don't mean do they speak the Queen's English, but I'm looking for, do they understand my questions? If they don't, do they feel comfortable and secure enough to say, could you rephrase that? I'm not sure I understand. When they communicate, they make sure that I'm understanding that it's not a canned response from them, because as much as you have canned interview questions, you can have canned responses too. I mean, you can go online and find typical interview questions.
That's why I was asking the question,
these.
Because it seems like it's just an act. This is the question, this is the answer I'm supposed to give, and there's practice interviews. So where's the trick? How are you really trying to find that good candidate, and how does the candidate really make sure you know that's...
I think the trick, for want of a better word, is you being an active listener as you conduct the interview. What are they saying? What do I see on their resume or their application? What's under that? They've said this, now let me go a little further and pursue this line of questioning, because they've said something that made me go, aha, and I may make a little note and I say, okay, Jim, tell me about, you mentioned this, now tell me why that was important to you. What made you single this out and bring this up?
I think that's really good. And we don't have much time. We've got about a minute left, but I did not want to end the show without you giving a little bit of advice on social media and how to make sure you keep it clean when you're out there looking in the workforce.
On social media, I'm an active social media presence. I thank God every day that there was no social media when I was younger.
Absolutely.
I think don't post anything that you would not want your potential supervisor, manager, to see, that you would not want on the front page of the local newspaper, whatever it looks like. Keep it clean. If you have comments to make, there are ways to make comments that are not destructive or ugly. You are creating an image for yourself. Your social media page, and don't be fooled, HR people look at those. We look at your Facebook, your Twitter, your Instagram. What hashtags do you use? What do you post about? Do you post good things, positive news? Are you always complaining about something?
Good stuff.
If you do, it's your attitude and it's your maturity level. And I know people older than myself that are not mature based on their social media persona.
Well, thank you for sharing that. I wanted to make sure we ended the show and gave that bit of advice because I think it's very important.
It is.
Once again, I'd like to thank our guest, Ms. Verlinda Henning, with the Society of Human Resource Executives, for joining us today. For more information on our show, please check us out on the web at GHS-TV.org, where we're streaming live 24 hours a day. You can also check us out on Facebook and Twitter. We hope you will join us again next month on Let's Talk Business.